Hi, I'm Lindsay Newitter, and I'm going to talk to you about how you can sit straighter without getting tired and without doing that old fix of trying to pull the shoulders back. And so I'm going to start to explain what people usually do to fix their posture, which usually involves some kind of pulling the shoulders back, and why that can be harmful. So usually the approach people use, and I'm going to turn sideways here, is if they are slouching, let's say slouching at the computer like this, and they realize they're slouching, they use what I would like to call a top-down approach to fixing their posture. They pull their shoulders back and lift themselves from the top. And what happens here is there's a lot of stiffness created. As you can see, when I'm pulling my shoulders back like this, I'm also arching my lower back, kind of leaning back into here, creating a lot of squeezing in the upper back. So this can create a lot of tension. Actually, with a lot of people, when I first start working with them, part of what we do is try to undo these old habits of trying to sit up straight. So if I'm pinching my shoulders back, not only can that create a lot of tension and strain in my upper and lower back, but let's say I think that I need to hold this position to have good posture, and I'm trying to do something like type at the same time. So I'm trying to reach my arms forward while I'm holding my shoulders back, and that creates kind of a conflict in the body, because if you're moving your arms forward, your shoulder and your shoulder blades should actually move slightly forward with your arm. So you might create even more strain if you're trying to hold your shoulders back while you move your arms forward. So you might want to think about, is that something that you ever do when you try to fix your posture? You might say, am I supposed to move my shoulders forward? Yeah, just a little bit. We don't want to be doing this, but we actually do need to move the shoulders a little bit forward sometimes. So that's the approach that people are often using that is problematic, that top-down, hoist themselves up approach, which causes all this tension. But we can look at another way, which I like to call the bottom-up approach. I bet you could have guessed that's what I was going to say. And so what we do here is, let's say I'm at the computer and I go, oh no, I'm slouching. What do I do? So I might have this knee-jerk reaction to want to hoist myself up from here, and I've got to decide not to do that. And actually, what I'm going to do is a kind of reset for the body. So instead of going, well, what do I move first? I'm actually just going to bend forward a little bit. And where I'm going to bend forward is at my hip joints. So we're just going to forget about the shoulders for a moment, and I want you to go, where are my hip joints? And this can be a really helpful thing to think about, because people often think their hip joints are way up here at the waist. But as you can see, my hip joints are quite a bit below my waist, and these are big joints that can support quite a bit of weight without getting strained, unlike some of the joints in the back. So what I want you to do is lean forward at your hip joints, and you can put your hands here so you can make sure that's where you're bending. And you might find as you lean forward that a lot of people find one thing is that their thighs start to tense up. They start to grip with their thighs. And it's like they're almost pulling their feet off the floor with their thighs. So you could even try that. You tense your thighs, you feel your feet start to almost like pull away from the floor. So if you start to go forward and you don't feel your weight shifting toward your feet, just see if you're able to let go of a little tension in the thighs, and if you feel your feet a little bit more. And the other thing is, a lot of the time when people go forward like this, they start to drop their head and their shoulders, because they have a habit of dropping like that every time they go forward. So the whole neck and shoulder head area goes down. And that's actually often the problem that initially causes the poor posture, because people are looking down or they're getting kind of glued to the screen. So the head, which weighs about 10 to 12 pounds, ends up getting the whole body to collapse. So what we want to do here is, as we're moving forward at the hip joints, here's a little trick. I want you to be aware of the back of your head. You could even just tap it a bit. Just go, oh yeah, the back of my head is way back here. It's actually behind your neck, way behind your neck here, right? So I want you to think about where the back of your head is, and that you're not going to bring the back of your head forward as you lean forward. So that's your little trick there. And so I didn't drop my head. And then again, try to see if you can let go of some tension in the thighs. You're bending at the hips. And now what I want you to do to come back up, I want you to resist that urge to pull yourself up with your upper body and lift your chest and lean back like that. We're not going to do that. Instead, what I want you to do is just push the floor a little bit with your feet and let that bring you up. So if you watch me, I'm just pushing the floor a bit with my feet, and look, I'm just unhinging at my hip joints. And as you come up, you might want to be a little bit aware of, that you're not arching your lower back, that you're letting your whole lower back come back, and also as your upper back and neck come up, that you're letting your neck come back, that you're not ending up like this. You're letting your neck come back too. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to go forward, not letting my head drop. So I'm thinking about where the back of my head is, releasing some tension in my thighs, feeling some weight go into my feet. Then I'm pushing myself back again, hinging at those hip joints, and see how everything kind of comes back together, right? So I really think about this area is the bottom of my torso. It's not up here, right? So I'm not lifting myself and arching from here to move back. I'm moving from the hip and moving my whole torso, head and neck from the hip by pushing the floor. And so that's your reset. But once you get up from there and you're sitting again, if you're somebody who likes to sit sort of close to how you're working, you might stay here. You might lean all the way back in the chair. People have different ways, styles that they like to sit and work in, and there's not one way. I'm sitting on this bench just so you can see me better, but if you're at a desk, you're probably in a chair at the back, so you could sit all the way back. If you want to sit forward and still feel something on your back, you could put a little cushion behind you. But you could take a moment to think about how you tend to sit, tend to work. What sort of trouble do you get into? Do you get into this kind of slouching or leaning on your desk, or do you tend to be kind of really tense and holding yourself up? Do you tend to lean back in the chair and slide? And based on that, adjust accordingly. So if you tend to be a little more forward, then maybe sit more forward on the chair and put a pillow behind you. If you tend to slide, then sit a little farther back and lean back on the chair after this exercise. And make sure you sit all the way back. So I hope that was helpful. And think about, was that exercise that we just did, was that easy for you? Or was it a little bit tricky? Was it like, I'm not sure if I'm arching my lower back, or I'm not really sure how to move that when I come up. It's hard to tell where my hip joints are. I keep wanting to bend at the waist. Maybe my head keeps dropping forward, or I'm not sure if it's dropping forward. So if you have more questions, there's going to be an opportunity to work with me. I'm offering a 1 hour $20 workshop on Tuesday, October 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And this will be an opportunity to look with me at different ways of sitting and different types of seating, like seating at a desk, or on a couch, on the floor, in a car, on an airplane, or maybe you find yourself going to the theater and have trouble dealing with those seats. So people tend to have pretty specific questions based on the context in which they sit, And I really like to emphasize there's not one right way of sitting. Like I was just explaining a little bit, the way that you might want to set yourself up, it might have a lot to do with what your particular sitting habits are. So if you want to go a little more in depth about this, if you have some questions for me, I suggest you sign up for that workshop. You can sign up, if you receive this video in email, you can sign up by clicking on the link in the email, or you can go directly to my website, look in group classes, and you will see this workshop listed there. And if you can't make it to the workshop itself, although I do encourage you to come live, you can watch a recording after. And so I will leave you with one more little tip, which just has to do with setting you up at your desk. Make sure that your feet can either be on the floor or resting on something, and try to adjust your screen so that you're looking at it straight on. Because those two things tend to affect our posture the most, whether we're grounded and whether we're able to keep our head balanced or if it drops down easily. So keeping that screen up it makes it a little easier for you to maintain good posture. So I hope that was helpful. And if you have any questions or questions about the workshop, feel free to fill out my contact form. Or if you got this in an email, just reply to the email. And I hope to see you at the workshop on the 25th. And one more thing, there is a bonus for the first 10 people who sign up for the workshop. I will offer you a free 15-minute consultation Zoom consultation on your workspace, and about how you're sitting there and how you're setting it up. So the workshop, the consultations, they are all online over Zoom, and I hope to see you there. Thank you.